Sorry.
To receive it, the council.
Carried. Well, carried. Of course it's carried.
Carried.
Oh, all those in favour? All those against? Thank you, carried. Right. Moving right along. We now have 30 submitters speaking today, which is likely to take us to around 10 to 3. As I kick off things, I'd like to welcome David Daesh, who will be joining us on Zoom. Are you there, David?
David's not there if you want to move to the next person.
Okie dokie. David's just coming along. So we've got Babs, please. Thank you. Welcome.
Then use one of those. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Babs Tana Brown toku ingoa. I'm a Beckenham resident and frequently practice water sports in the Ihutai estuary. I have certainly noticed some bad smells at times that come with the conflated issue of their origins. Regardless of their source, I'd like to acknowledge the impact these smells have on Bromley residents. Options 1 and 2 of your survey, in my opinion, are totally unacceptable and a backward step. I think it's obvious to all of us that the annual shipping of 60,000 tonnes of green waste 800 kilometres around the country and or putting it in the Kate Valley landfill is wrong on so many levels. Methane emissions due to anaerobic conditions, CO2 emitting trucks on the roads, loss of valuable nutrient resources and expanding landfills that leach into our groundwater, and rate increases with no long-term returns. I realize that the points that I'm making in my submission are only part of a solution and will take some time to gain traction. They offer, however, a viable long-term solution with a multitude of additional benefits. In the meantime, realistically, there will be some compromises to be made, with any negative effects needing mediation. While I was pondering over your survey question, where should we send green bin organics, I realized that it was asking the wrong question. Rather, I'd like to go back a step and rephrase it. What can we do to reduce the amount of green waste that needs to be collected in the first place? Here's my proposal. I'd like to advocate for increased community engagement by encouraging people to take responsibility for the waste they produce. We can all do our bit and in turn support the local council to solve the issues at hand. So if we, as the Otautai community, manage to reduce the amount of green waste that will need to be collected, it will be easier for the City Council to manage it. Maybe then it can be composted fully indoors at the existing plant, or do fewer windrows equate to less smell? Even the amount of green waste to be dealt with as proposed in option 1 or 2 will be vastly reduced. My vision includes creating less food waste by expanding on the national campaign Love Food, Hate Waste, reducing garden waste, for example, mulch lawn clippings or have smaller lawns, and also compost your garden waste and especially your kitchen waste, which is high in odor-inducing nitrogen, at home or in community hubs. I'm advocating for ratepayers' money not to be wasted on landfill dumpings and green waste road trips, but instead being used to educate and incentivize the residents of Otautai to deal with most, if not all, of their mixed green waste at home. This can be achieved through offering and promoting affordable or free of charge gardening and composting workshops, offering encouragement, support, and financial incentives to individuals and groups, exploring different systems that work for our climate and a variety of living situations, be it inner city apartments or a garden section. Composting at household level can take many shapes and forms, and once established, is relatively easy to do. Options include traditional composting bins, sealed containers and hot composters, vermiculture farms, bokashi buckets under the kitchen bench, and many more. Share waste and composting hubs are also a good way to work with smaller and decentralized systems. The council could provide space and support for community gardens, thereby getting communities to work together, recover the valuable resource of nutrients, save on food costs, and close the recycling cycle. Dr. Compost, aka Ben Elms, from Wastebusters in Queenstown, found that teaching people gardening first will get them more motivated to compost. Encouraging gardening, including food gardens, will have further reaching and long-term benefits, such as assisting during our cost of living crisis, providing low food miles and fresh kai. I believe there has to be a global and general paradigm shift in many aspects of our behaviours. Yes, the idea might be new to some, meet some resistance because it is slightly more inconvenient than just dumping green waste into the bin and let it become somebody else's problem. Let us live up to Otautau's label as the Garden City and let composting at household level be the new normal. Thank you for listening to my submission.
Thank you very much. That was perfect. So that was more or less right on time. Thank you for your submission. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next we have Bruce King, please. Welcome, mate.
Good morning. The OPP, the odour producing plant for those of us living in the wind shadow of the OPP. In my opinion, the public consultation questionnaire was presented in a way that would engender fear of rate increases amongst the citizens, and this resulted in manipulated responses by residents who had no knowledge of the history and the problems this plant has caused to those living in the area. Neither was any mention made of hundreds of thousands of dollars already spent by the Christchurch City Council in consultation and efforts to remediate the problem on the present site without success, or that the CCC had already decided approximately 2 years ago that the plant would be moved as is recorded in council minutes. All of the questions ended with a sentence pointing out the financial cost resulting in increased rates. None of the options listed any benefits of closing the OPP, neither the physical or mental health for those of us living in the wind shadow. For example, children being able to play outside without feeling sick or embarrassed, as stated in a presentation to this council by pupils from the Bromley School a couple of years ago. Residents living in the wind shadow being able to invite family and friends to their homes for barbecues or other social gatherings, and consequently minimising social isolation for many physical and disabled in the community. Isolation and stress are well-documented factors in contributing to premature deaths. No, the option of closing the plant immediately and telling people the benefits of doing so was conveniently left off the choices. And I'm just going to add an extra bit now. It tells the story, to quote the CCC employee. The story is the CCC tactics, another word used by the employee, used in the consultation, should be called to pass because they used the fear factor to get the option they wanted. Very manipulative and very unfair. This summer is showing all the signs of being the stinkiest summer, one of the stinkiest summers on record. The OPP has been stinking every day lately. Yesterday was extremely putrid and smelly. The stinky air emitted from the OPP carries pathogens, black dust and mould spores, all irritants that are well documented as being harmful to humans and animals. The government has recognised the harmful effect of these pollutants as reflected in recent requirements under the Healthy Homes legislation. And still, the CCC has shown no responsibility or conscience for the continued pollution and detrimental effects on residents in the wind shadow of the OPP. For many years now, the CCC has spent hundreds of thousands of ratepayers' dollars trying to prove the OPP is not the problem it was other industry causing the compost stink that affects the residents. It was good to hear this morning that the City Council finally admitted it did pollute and stink. This money should have been spent towards relocation of the OPP and building a true state-of-the-art composting plant. Processing organics as done at Metro Place is not state-of-the-art, nor is it a green process. It is in fact a very ineffective duty process. Diesel-powered trucks pick up the green bins, diesel-powered equipment is used to shift the stinking waste around at the OPP, Also loading and unloading the composting ovens. The greatest emitter of greenhouse gas is the composting ovens. The CCC is using century-old processes that emits more greenhouse gas than a herd of 4,000 to 6,000 cattle. The distribution of the compost is also done by diesel-powered machinery. The resultant compost, because of the inefficient process, becomes a carrier of weeds. The result is more harmful emissions, with the need to eliminate these redistributed weeds by poisoning, using weed killer and diesel-powered machinery. The question, is composting a green process at the OPP? The answer, no, and definitely no. The immediate and cheapest solution is to pick up weekly the red bins, which should also include the green household waste. The inclusion of green waste, when dumped with general waste, helps with the breakdown of all rubbish. Close the OPP now. Why wasn't public consulted on extra spending on the stadium and the sports centre? Why? Why did they pick on having public consultation on shifting or relocating the OPP? Is that because we are the poor people of Christchurch and we're easily picked upon and beaten down? As you can see, but they don't want to answer the question here because they're sick of what's happening to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. That's very good. Right, we'll just whip back to David, who has now joined us online. Are you there, Dave?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, fire away, sir.
Great. I just wanted to mention I'm doing an exam later today. So instead of studying or sleeping, I'm here. So I just wanted to point out how much I care about this. I'm studying civil engineering. I'm a home gardener. I do my composting at home. And I'm part of a tree planting charity that puts trees in the red zone. So I just wanted to point out, I'm a civic-minded person. Now, I read the ODA reports that were available online. I couldn't find in the ODA reports a single example of objectionable smells being detected by the scouts. I'm sure it smells, but compost smells nice. Frankly, it's a normal part of any garden. I think this is primarily just a small group of people who are annoyed about the smell and not actually reflective of a serious problem or something that's actually affecting the health of a large number of people. Based on using the objective measures that have been recorded, it doesn't seem to be a huge problem. Considering the size of the consequence and the tiny number, the consequences to changing the system, and the tiny number of people that have reported the problem, the objective data seems to be what should be considered in this case. It seems to me that Living Earth have been extremely responsible with odor control, and the existing site location is very well situated. Also, with respect to option number 3, it seems to me that if you remove the tailings from the system, you're going to screw up the process and increase the methane and smell production by restricting oxygen to the center of the pile. Having a large, slow decomposing woody material creates air gaps that allows oxygen filtration into compost, which creating aerobic conditions reduces the amount of methane that's produced by compost. When you do it well, it doesn't produce any methane. If we're being serious about climate change, I think we have to get used to being close to and interacting with nature. That includes the bad stuff, and I think we can deal with it. We can adapt. We don't need to just file it away like dirty laundry under the bed. I think we can come to learn to interact with nature. And that's pretty much all I had to say.
Okay, you're done there, mate? You're good?
Yep, any questions?
Okay, yes, any questions of anybody? No, everyone seems to be particularly happy, so thank you very much for your submission.
All right, thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so now we have Don Gould, please.
Morning, folks. So my submission that I'll take is read, but I'll read it again for you. It's just the right thing to do. Sending this waste off to Cape Valley at this point in time as a temporary interim solution is just the right thing to do. We just heard a speaker talk to us about it's only impacting a few small people. Well, I tell you what, I mowed my lawn over the weekend and my wife said, no, do not take a wheelbarrow load of lawn clippings into council with you this morning. I seriously did think about it. But tell me, which one of you, put your hand up if you'd like me to bring a wheelbarrow load in this afternoon and dump it on your desk and then just sit here and say, well, it's only one of you that's got a wheelbarrow load of my stinky lawn clippings on your desk. How about you, Mr. Mayor? Would you like to volunteer for that? No, I didn't think so. That's rhetorical. We've got a chance. Sorry, did you want to interject?
No, I didn't.
We've got a chance to send a clear message on this one and to give staff a mandate to sort out what we do with organics processing. And I think that sending this green waste to the Cape Valley to landfill is an absolutely, utterly appalling thing to do. And it's also the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do right now to give these people in Bromley some relief, given the problems they've had with their sewage treatment plant. And it's the right thing to do to give ourselves a mandate to actually properly sort out organic processing. Because quite frankly, as we just heard Bruce King point out, it's just greenwashing what we're doing right now. Picking up my 3 barrows of lawn clippings and putting them in a diesel-powered truck, carting them across town from as far away as the Waimak and over there in Horswell and out to the west is just absurd. Now, I haven't done the accounting. You all know that I'm a bit of a numbers guy. I haven't done the green accounting on this because it just looks too ridiculous to even bother to delve into. Lies, deceit, and malfeasance is just not okay. And year after year, that's what you're accused of in this chamber on this one. And I'm not surprised, having had a bit of a look, having a talk with some of you, having a talk with some of the residents. This one's just got ridiculous. This council's reputation on this, as far as I'm concerned, is just utterly, utterly in the gutter. When I read every one of these council agendas that comes out that talks about our council values and the sorts of values that we aspire to give to our community, and then look at how we treat a small subset of our residents. Again, Mr. Mayor, would you like me to bring back that load of lawn clippings and dump it on your desk this afternoon and then tell the rest of the councillors, but it's okay, it's only on Phil's desk? I think I'm likely to get trespassed. I'm likely to get thrown out of the building for that and told I'm not welcome to come back for at least 2 years, and then I'll get trespassed again after that, wouldn't I? Talking of trespass, talking of fines, I'd like to interject a little bit with the, if I was to park my van outside the front of the building today, I'd probably get a $60 fine for parking on a yellow line. Now, we should take that as a percentage of my income and then look at what that percentage number looks like. Let's look at the business as usual fines we dish out to this organics processing plant at about $750 a time, I think it is, for admitting offensive odours over the boundary, and look at that as a percentage over the... Let's pick the $1.9 billion of capital improvement of added equity that the report said that we have added in the last year alone to our asset value. Or look at the $13 billion worth of capital value of the council and then ask, really, $60 for parking outside? I should be paying less than a cent based on the numbers. And that is about all I had on my list. So I've got 32 seconds. I'm happy to take a question.
Councillor Johansson, please.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the deputation. Did you have any comment? You would have heard some of the previous deputation comments around the actual engagement document itself and how we consulted. Did you have any reflection or comment on the document that we consulted the community with and how we consulted? Absolutely
agree with Bruce King. It's a farce. It's offensive towards the community. It didn't do the council's reputation any good for exactly the point that Bruce highlighted, 1% response from the council. One of the problems we've got in the city right now is that we reach out for engagement with the community so often that it's the boy who cried wolf, and more often than not we get very, very little feedback, even on the important issues. We just sent out a citywide engagement on what we want to spend our rates on, etc. That got a very low feedback as well. Most of these things get incredibly low responses. In my view, it doesn't actually give us a good steer as to what the community's feeling it is. It just gives a steer of what the interested parties have got to say. Even these presentations today, you've got the same cohort of interested parties turning up, and that's about the lot. It's a bit hard to know.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don. That's excellent. Thank you. Right, now we have Jeffrey King, please. So welcome to the table, Jeffrey. I know you're absolutely passionate about this for years. And
Passionate?
Yes, please keep things subjective.
No word would describe it, sir.
Far away, mate.
We're away, are we?
Yep.
We were offered 5 options, and each option is nothing but the status quo. Read the options. There is no fix in the options that were put out in that document. Consultants were employed. They didn't use the top piece to work out the figures. The only option to fix the problem is option 2. Send it to Cape Valley, bury it, then extract the methane, convert it to electricity, feed it into the grid. The famous consultants that this council threw money at do not have a clue except to accept the good money thrown at them for bad advice. They quoted all sorts of numbers to transport the product to Cape Valley. They mentioned an increase in greenhouse emissions of something like 104,600 tonnes of CO2. This is utter bullshit. The consultants you have employed do not understand that we now have electric trucks and hydrogen trucks, thus no emissions. In fact, sending the whole kit and caboodle to Cape Valley, the methane emissions from the composting plant at 40 Metro Place, which is one of the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases in this city, yet some of you want it to keep operating. You vote for it to keep operating. Then they want, in the options, they want to shift the content round to other composting facilities, and that's just unbelievable. You're sending the same problem around other districts. Wake up, use the top piece. The problem of odour is in the food content in the green bins. Not the garden content, the food content. The meat, the fish, the dairy, birds, chickens, ducks are all source of the odour. Anything connected to a living animal, be it a cat, dog, rat, etc. Birds of any description, they give off an odour when dead. Even their faeces, their urine, stinks to high heaven, and it figures that it follows with the dead animal. You won't change it, and when composted with the heat in the composting process, brings out the rotten odour. Up until the late 1970s, or was it early 80s, there was a problem with odour at the Sockburn Hornby Wigram area, with the Islington Freezing Works byproducts being processed by Canterbury Byproducts Limited. Look at the problem at Woolston with the gelatine factory. Again, both animal products used, heat applied. You won't stop it. Then take a look at the crematorium in Linwood Avenue, the problems they had there with the ash and the stench. Human bodies, blood flowing around the bodies of animals, humans, whatever. You won't stop the problem. And staff and consultants want to ship the process round the city to even create a new OPP, which is just transferring the problem. Our group of 3 residents, latterly 4, have been telling the Waste Department, five heads in 10 years, what the problem is, but they do not listen. Only our councillor has, Mr. Johansson, has understood, but he has been fighting a losing battle against the ignorance by those too lazy to listen and do their homework. The stupidity of wanting to send the product round to another composting entities round the city, as in the other 4 options, is mind-blowing. The second problem with regards to the stench is the non-existent biofilter that enables the stench to be pumped into the atmosphere and around the adjoining council wards, and that includes Banks Peninsula. The biofilter tray is a tray of bark through which the foul, debilitating odour from the processing chamber is passed through. It is at least 150 years old technology, cheap and nasty. It is no more biofilter than fly to the moon. Well, there is no biofilter, period. You have wasted good ratepayers' dollars on consultants. One such firm here in the city, Hereford Street, publicly stated that they could not find any odour from January 2022 through to January 2023. Yet I listed 242 complaints of odour during that period of 365 days. I've lived in that odour for 365 days of the year. I have questioned their observers around the street, and I'm telling you, they wouldn't have a bloody clue. And LEL, Living Earth Limited, are laughing all the way to the bank, laughing at this place, at our expense. They even have filmed our houses, our weather stations, gone on talk back under false names to contradict our statements. The turning off of the fans of the pumps when inspections for the plant is imminent shows how desperate they are to keep the status quo and thus line the Mitsubishi Bank's pocket in Tokyo. There is only one option, and that's to take all green waste to Kate Valley, the same as they do for general rubbish. It's an embarrassment, this OPP, and it's a social injustice to those living in the wind shadow. And social injustice meaning we can't have our friends round. Our friends won't come round and visit us because of the stench. We don't have barbecues. We don't eat outside. In fact, in the summer, it's that bad in the summer because we live in the roof of our house. I have to get in the car and go and sleep in my car in the lay-bys at Sumner or New Brighton, upwind. Third world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Right, so, yep, is he here? Is Matthew here?
Nick's here.
Yeah, okay. So we'll just skip Matthew for a second because he's here. So Nick, please.
He's online.
Oh, online?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that you could hear me.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. You go for your life.
Yeah, hey, how's it going? Sorry, I've just dialed in now, so hopefully I'm prepared enough. I have to say, I joined the submission as a resident of the east side of Christchurch. I don't live in Bromley, I live in Linwood, certainly enough to be affected by the smell of the fire damage at the plant. I know that's not what we're necessarily talking about today, and I know that the residents of Bromley have it a lot worse, given the smell of the organic waste processing in Bromley. I do, though, want to speak on the courage, I suppose, of the Christchurch City Council and their 2019 climate emergency pledge. I want to rule out any support from me and my friends who live in the east side of Christchurch to send any waste processing to the North Island. I think it's absurd. I think that if we are going to be really serious about our responsibilities as a city and to be as progressive as possible, sending green waste to the North Island is just the most unreasonable thing I've heard in quite a long time. I feel that my first preference would be to continue waste processing with with infrastructure to mitigate the smell. I believe that we should, in all aspects of what the Christchurch City Council contends with, is to really have courage and to do things properly. I feel that there's a bit of a track record recently of, I mean, even if we look back to the sale of Red Bus, something that I strongly disagreed with in any upcoming talk of asset sales. I think it really is a way to shaft responsibility away from the council and our organisation as a city. I think we've really got to look at becoming a world-class city, and not just in terms of what we can provide outside visitors, but for the ongoing sustainability of our city. I've lived here my whole life. I feel that the rebuild has been poorly managed, as I think you will probably do as well. We still have a city that's full of rubble. We don't have a decent public transport infrastructure. We are barely able to contain our waste and our waste processing without affecting half of the city's residents. I think it's really time to step up, look at ourselves and say, we need to take ownership of this. New Zealand hasn't done well since the mid-80s of deregulation and selling off our resources and production in this country. I think we can look back over 40 years and sort of realise that if we, and I understand Cape Valley is 40%, I believe, owned by the council. And look, great. I mean, second option, sure, but sending green waste processing to landfill is, again, regressive and seemingly ridiculous. I feel that we really, really need to take heed of what the council themselves, I know that not all of the councillors are the same people, but declared a climate emergency in 2019. And if we're not really serious about doing anything about it, what's the point? Christchurch has a really strong history of being a progressive city, and to do something as regressive as even looking at sending green waste to the North Island is patently ridiculous. I think we really need to step up, own our issues, and continue processing at Bromley, at least in part, and look, just take responsibility for our waste. Again, sorry, I wish I could be a little bit more prepared, but hopefully you understand where I'm coming from, and thank you very much for hearing my submission.
Councillor Cotter.
Thank you. Thanks for your submission. Do you realise, Nick, that this is just a temporary solution while we look at a more environmentally friendly, beneficial long-term option?
Look, as I said, sorry, I probably could have read up a little bit better, you're right. I may have to look back at the documents of the proposal.
Yeah, but in that light, would you then support it being moved off-site to alleviate the smell that people are experiencing as an interim short-term solution?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose looking at that option, then Cape Valley to me definitely makes a lot more sense than the North Island, at least.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, thank you, Nick. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Righto. So we'll now just jump ahead to John Mackey, who's just wandered into the room. So good to see you. Timing is spot on, buddy.
Thank you.
So we're all set?
Far away, mate.
Okay. Tēnā koutou katoa. Good morning, Your Worship, the Mayor and councillors, and I wish to to thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My name is John Mackey, and I'm a chartered professional engineer with broad experience in the city infrastructure. And as I say, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to my key points. Now, firstly, I'd strongly urge the council to think about introducing a ban on permitting putrefiable food scraps into the green bins or directly to the organics processing plant, particularly meat, dairy and fish waste. Now, food scraps of this nature are well known to emit foul odours as they decompose. A preferred alternative is to direct these food scraps through in-sink waste disposal units and channeling this resource for reuse at the Bromley wastewater treatment plant. It's important to note that Christchurch has the necessary infrastructure at the Bromley plant to convert this waste into sustainable energy source by processing this material through anaerobic digesters. The waste is effectively broken down and the resultant gas becomes a valuable source of electricity and heat, therefore reducing the costs for council. Now, restoring the full capacity of the damaged wastewater plant post the fire event, I think is an urgent priority for the council. Now, in my submission, I have referenced some previous studies and would like to introduce some more recent surveys, including the 5-city survey from the USA and a very recent survey conducted by Yabble on Christchurch residents, which reveals that approximately 30% of households already are equipped with in-sink waste disposal units, and approximately 39% of these appear in new builds. These examples make a compelling case for the use of anaerobic digestion at our own wastewater treatment plant as a great option for gaining maximum benefit from those food scraps and lowering the impact on the composting plant and the odours it generates. However, I would also like to express some concerns regarding the lack of community involvement in the broader long-term strategy for managing the food and organics, which has recently been set in motion. Now, the decision relating to the future of the organics facility is of significant importance and should actually adhere to sections 77 through 8182 of the Local Government Act. Now, these sections mandate transparent consideration of all available options in consultation with the community, including the option to actually exit the market. So regrettably, the significant procurement plan that has been discussed in public excluded meetings with limited engagement with the wider community. So the request for proposal, which recently closed, was anticipated to culminate in negotiations by the end of October, and with the contract expected to be awarded in February next year. I contend that this proposal has not sufficiently explored all the alternatives and thus should be paused before any further long-term contracts are awarded or entered into and following wider community consultation. Now, in the absence of specific details regarding these confidential long-term options, I would implore the Council to avoid replicating the approach adopted by Auckland Council with its curbside food waste collection service. Now, this service has experienced poor public uptake, it's failed to meet its initial collection targets, it has encountered strong public opposition, and these sentiments are also echoed in the Yabble survey of Christchurch, where 58% do not support this approach. So such a service commits Auckland ratepayers to very, very costly put or pay contracts, valued at over $500 million over the term of these contracts, resulting in sustained rate increases spanning decades and depriving their water agency Watercare of the opportunity to derive energy cost savings at their Mangere wastewater treatment plant. Now, the alternative, what we're suggesting is several other New Zealand councils are contemplating the introduction of mandatory separate food waste collection services based on their interpretation of the Ministry for the Environment waste strategy. However, it's imperative to acknowledge that this strategy remains unlegislated and unendorsed by the current government at this stage, and therefore it should not be pursued until such time that it is, if at all. So rather than embarking on construction of new facilities and initiating additional long-term contracts of any sort, I'd propose that Council consider developing an exit strategy from the business of being in the green waste service or providing composting facilities. This could well be left to the private sector. Instead, the focus should be shifted towards fixing the Christchurch wastewater treatment plant, promoting home composting, which is well favoured by 30% of Christchurch residents, and build upon the existing waste-to-energy infrastructure that is already available to the Christchurch people at the wastewater treatment plant. There is an opportunity, Mr. Mayor, to rethink how we deal with organics in this community, and rather than attempting to build new long-term facilities and contracts that would cost the city hundreds of millions that the city simply cannot afford. So I submit these recommendations for your earnest consideration, and I remain at your disposal for further inquiries or discussions if desired. So nā mihi nui. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John. That's spot on. Thank you. Okay, so we'll have Matthew, please, and then we'll have a break. So, welcome, Matthew. Have you got a brother, Nick?
No.
No, that's right. So you look just outside.
Uncle Nick.
Oh, uncle. Okay, far away, mate.
Bit older.
Yeah.
Do I just speak out loud or?
You sit down. You do whatever you like. She's all yours.
Sorry, I haven't done one of these before.
No, don't be scared.
That one looked a little bit more advanced than mine, but basically, I understand it's obviously a big undertaking, and basically, me and my partner sitting there doing the survey, kind of were basically thinking like, we don't have a compost bin at home. We don't know anything about composting. Haven't really researched it. I'm not sure about the statistics. They've just seen that apparently a lot of people do, but perhaps a promotion could be like you could do a subsidy or anything like that for people who are wanting to start composting, which would be an easy short-term solution to lower the amount of green waste going into the system. Is just basically, get people resources for cheap compost bins, resources on how to compost. Like we've got a garden at home, we could do with compost, but we just haven't gotten around to it because we've got the green bins, and they've been fantastic. But if it's affecting the Bromley residents, that's not really acceptable. We don't live in Bromley, but I've had the smells floating by over in Hoonhay, and I would hate to live with that. So there's no way that can continue. And just as a simple ease, just a bit of composting would be like having a compost system that everyone can kind of get behind and use would probably be where I would concentrate a few efforts to have a potentially long-term solution even, but easily it's an easy short-term solution with a bit of marketing and a bit of information for the general public. I know we sure would probably we put out a lot of green waste just for mowing our lawn. That if that could go into composting, awesome. If it didn't, just anything really. So that would probably be my main suggestion. I think that's what I mainly put on my thing. So yeah.
Thank you, Matthew. Councillor Cotter's got a question.
Thank you. I was just going to suggest that you'll probably have a community garden in your area somewhere, and most schools now have composting systems as well, so it's easy for you to reach out and get some assistance if you want to learn how to do it, and you can also might be able to take your clippings to a community composting area. So just an idea. And
well,
also,
I could definitely go on YouTube and look it up and start it, but I just thought for the general public it would be awesome.
Have you heard of bokashi? Bokashi. It's this little 2-bucket system you put in your own kitchen, and you sprinkle the sawdusty stuff on the top.
Oh yeah,
it's really
like
really
a composting toilet kind of thing.
Doesn't smell, And then you
It just less so for me. I'm just using me as an example, but like
that's all I want to say.
Yeah.
I don't really have a question. I live in Hoonhay too, and we do composting, so you can come check it out if you want.
What an invitation.
Thank you very much for coming in, Matthew. See, we didn't eat you. Don't be scared.
No, that's fine.
and come back sometime.
Yeah, I think it's my second submission, but this one's a bit more full on.
Good on you, mate. Good on you. Okay, so we'll have a breather until 11 o'clock, everybody. So see you back then. Good on you. Thank you.